Good morning. It is a rainy Monday. What is that? The song Rainy Days and Mondays Always Get Me Down. For myself, I would say I'm going to embrace this rainy day to get caught up in some things and drop in to get back into sharing some thoughts with you here on YouTube. So I think I just uploaded a video about loneliness. And this is a theme that comes up often in session for people. And I think there's a loneliness that happens on a variety of levels. But where I want to begin is differentiating between loneliness and solitude, loneliness and being alone, and what we actually believe about loneliness from the conditioned parts of ourselves. I believe that many narcissists utilize intermittent reinforcement with loneliness. They also weaponize leaving you feeling alone or being alone. And so I think typically they will punish you with abandonment and rejection, right? So they'll ghost you, they don't show up. They also are not attuned to you. They're not listening, they don't see you, they're not paying attention. So in that way you feel alone. And then more insidiously, there could be isolation. So this could be because the narcissist in your life is not particularly social. This could be because they tell you they're the only ones who love you and care about you, and they assassinate the character of other people in your life so that you start devaluing the other people in your life. This could also be a bit of the it's you and me against the world thinking, where they lead you to believe that, only the two of you can be together. My own personal experience with this is, having spent many, many years feeling alone, and then also believing that there must be something wrong with me because I'm alone. So that's a feeling of shame. Many people who've also experienced narcissistic wounding will feel alone in a crowd because there's an attachment wound of not having a sense of belonging. So I'll add that on to there. So obviously, we all experience loneliness and we all feel alone from time to time. But I think that there is a unique way that loneliness is part of narcissistic wounding specifically. And it's important then to understand how perhaps you've been impacted by feeling alone or being alone. So in the worst case scenario, maybe as a child, there was an element of neglect. Now, this could be a benign neglect where a parent really was present but ignored you, or it could be that they simply weren't around at all and you were abandoned. So that's on a bit of a spectrum. To me, that really plants the seeds of a very significant narcissistic wound. And then you'll go on perhaps to have a certain comfort level with friends or partners who may lead you to feeling alone. So I'll just pause for a moment because what I just said is pretty heavy, right? That, if your parent or parents or guardians had severe narcissism, you may very well have been abandoned and on your own. Which of course then leads to feelings of shame, unworthiness, even fear. And I would go on to say perhaps maybe even it could be the foundation for some anxiety, certainly separation anxiety. And I think it builds an unhealthy attachment to that unhealthy person. So if you feel afraid, right, you're still going to feel less afraid when that not so good person is there, right? And again, that becomes part of your attachment blueprint. That becomes part of what you'll tolerate, becomes kind of normal. If we move on for a moment to talk specifically about narcissistic partners or narcissistic friends, even to a lesser extent, there's a fairly predictable pattern where they come on pretty strong in the beginning and you're flooded and overwhelmed by their presence. And this feels really good. There's a lot of dopamine uptake going on when someone seems really interested in you and they're calling and texting and they want to know everything about you. But, and this is a big but, over time, this will shift. And as you don't live up to their unrealistic expectations, perhaps as there's a process of your worth in their life changing, a devaluation effect, they will, without a doubt, abandon you. They will not show up, not answer your calls, not answer your texts. They will leave you on D or leave you on R, whatever. There is something going on here where they want you to work a little bit harder for their attention, or worst case scenario, they've moved on to someone else, or both, because narcissists love to have you compete, right? They love to feel special. And one of the ways they do that is by going out of contact with you. It may also be that part of what's going on for them is a perceived slight, like you may have done some minuscule thing that they found fault with. That could be too. But the idea here, though, is that you are going to be pulled into responding from that place of loneliness or from that place of woundedness. This is always the moment where I wish I could just stop and say, does anyone have any questions? If you do, write them down, put them in the comments, DM me, and we'll talk more about this. Another little piece I will add is within family systems, groups, workplaces, narcissists will weaponize loneliness. So there will be scenarios where there's a lunch perhaps that you're not invited to. There's a meeting that you're excluded from. Everyone is going out for drinks after work and you don't get asked. I have heard this many times. I have experienced this myself many times. And let me tell you, if you are the excluded one in the narcissist little posse, A, take that as a huge compliment, and B, thank your lucky stars. Anyone who's invited and included in those types of things ultimately is going to be rejected. I can promise you that. People who are in that inner circle sometimes do the wrong thing and they're very quickly in the outer circle. So just wanting you to notice that. That is a pattern that comes from family systems. That is a pattern that people learn in their families of, if you do this wrong thing, I am going to exclude you. I'm going to kick you off the island. There really is so much to be said about loneliness. And please have compassion for yourself if you experience that, remembering that at times we all feel lonely. Even in, and especially because of these times of rapid access to people in their lives, as we see on social media, what people are doing, and more specifically, what they're doing without us. So again, bring compassion for yourself about that. The last thing I'm going to say is to talk a little bit about solitude. And there are lots of corrective measures for narcissistic wounding, the most important one being building a community of supportive, like-minded people who have your back. I think that's the most important one. But another important idea is solitude. Find healing in your own company, right? I struggle with this. I'm an extrovert. I need to be around people. I get mopey. I get melancholy when I'm by myself for too long. But I am learning to really embrace solitude, to layer in sensory experience around what I see and hear, taste, see, smell on my skin, in being in nature, being with animals, being creative, right? Best time I can play my guitar is when no one else is around. Don't need an audience. In meditation, in prayer, in solitude, we meet our authentic self. And in solitude, we meet our spirit community as well. So I hope that you, like me, are on this journey from loneliness to solitude to finding our true center and thus our true meaning and belonging. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you soon.